Hey guys, today we're going to talk about antique vehicle lubricants. We're going to cover, as you know, I work on a lot of Willys stuff, so we're going to cover what's right for the Willys Jeep. But this stuff will work for any antique truck, antique vehicle. And I'm going to go over different lubricants and show you, you know, what the right stuff is. I've worked with a lubricant company many years ago, and we came up with the right stuff for transmissions, transfer cases, differentials, steering knuckles, steering boxes. I got a little bit of everything. So I got Matt helping me today, and the first one we're going to talk about is Knuckle Lube. This is what you put in your closed knuckle. It's going to work on the Jeep. It's going to work on old trucks. Anything with a closed knuckle, this is going to work fantastic on. So we're going to go over this. Matt's going to zoom in on this, and basically Matt is going to ask some questions that we've been seeing on the forums and I guess different pages and stuff. Matt says he's seeing a lot of controversy about the right oils and stuff. This is the Knuckle Lube we came up with. Now, you guys that have been buying this for a while, it used to be white. And we were making this white, and then a lot of guys started counterfeiting it and selling white lithium grease to people, and it doesn't have the same characteristics. This is the correct grease for your knuckle. So it's good to minus 45 degrees up to I think it's something like 300 degrees. It's very stable. It lubricates perfectly as it's supposed to in all the joints, the Bendix, the Zeppa joint, Spicer joints, and like I say, any closed knuckle vehicle, this is going to work fantastic. So I'm going to just stir it up a little bit. You can see the viscosity of it, and this will run, and this will stay this liquid when it's freezing cold out or super hot out. It's not going to leak out of your seals. This is basically 00 weight. If you go by the national grease lubricating industry, there, this would be like a 00. So it's the correct stuff for knuckles. And I do get a lot of questions about how to put this in. And what I tell guys is just get a nozzle such as this and put this in the corner of a Ziploc bag and dump your lube in the bag and squeeze it through this nozzle right into the fill hole. That works the best. You can use old Mason's grout bag. You can use anything. And the way this is going to come to you, this is what I sell it. I sell it as 1 gallon container. It's going to come in this container. And like I said, you can just dump it in a bag or or however you want to put it in. You can put it in with a suction gun like this. You can just pull it out of the bucket like that and push it in. That's kind of slow. You can squeeze it in faster with a bag. So Matt's going to go through some questions that we've been seeing, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. We're going to talk about what's going on out there and what guys are using.
So a few of the questions I saw out on the different forums and Facebook pages, a lot of guys are wondering, you know, why they can't use cornhead grease, and what's the whole myth to that?
Cornhead grease was made for farm equipment, corn harvesting machines. They were having trouble with leaking. They developed cornhead grease. It went in, it stayed very thick, and when it got hot, it thinned out a little bit, but it didn't thin out too much where it would leak out of the machine. If you're in any kind of cold weather, it stays thick way too long. It doesn't have the proper lubricant additives that I have in the stuff that I developed, and it wouldn't work good, say, in a Bendix joint.
And is the Knuckle Lube that you supply, is that does it get to the upper kingpin bearings and lubricate?
That will slosh around in there perfectly. if you're doing a complete front end rebuild and you want to put your bearings in, you could just slather a little bit of this on your kingpin bearings, and then if you have freewheeling hubs, lock them once a month and drive. And as that axle is slinging around in there, this will fly right up to that top bearing, lubricate it, and it will flow right down into the lower bearing, and you won't have any trouble with dried out bearings.
Now, what about using a mixture of gear lube and grease? What's some guys call it coating?
The knuckle was never designed to be. You were never supposed to mix lube. Grease and oil aren't going to 100% mix. The oil will leak past your seals because it's thin, and it just isn't the right lubricant. And in the cold weather, it's going to be way too stiff, and you'll feel it when you start driving. Your knuckles will be dragging, and you'll feel that you'll lose performance in the Jeep.
So obviously, straight 90 weight gear oil is not going to work either.
Straight 90 weight will run right past your seals, and it won't stay in there and lubricate the joint at all.
Okay. All right.
Do you think we covered the Knuckle Lube good? You got that good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to move on to Transmission Lube. And I've got a little bit in the cup here. And if anybody has any questions about any of this stuff, just send me a comment below. I get a lot of comments on all my lubricants that I developed. Some guys like them, some guys don't. But if you're looking for the right stuff, and you're looking for the quality ingredients in the lube, I have the right stuff. It took me years to develop. I finally have a company working with me that will sell me the stuff that I want. And I'm hoping that I can pass it along to you guys. So, this is the Transmission Lube, and I'm going to stir a little bit up with my finger here. And I think you can see the viscosity here. This is not 80-90 weight. This is the correct viscosity for most of your driving. This will handle spring, summer, and fall. If you're in severe cold weather, I have some thinner stuff. But this can handle most of your driving. So, what have you been seeing out on the forums, Matt?
So I see a lot of guys using, 80, 90 weight hypoid gear oil.
Okay, the oil that I developed has no additives in it that are going to harm anything in your transmission. 80-90 weight is designed for hypoid gears, and it has extreme pressure additives, which are very bad in a transmission transfer case type setup. So this is free of any additives and will not harm anything.
Okay. And I'm also seeing a lot of guys use Napa straight 90 weight GL1 mineral gear oil. That seems to be the go-to out there.
GL1 is a little thinner. It doesn't have... It has trace amounts of additives in it. It's not the right viscosity. And I noticed the guys putting that in are saying, it's hard getting my Jeep in first gear. The gears don't slow down enough. They just didn't hit the viscosity right with the GL1.
Okay. And a lot of guys out there are worried about sulfur content. Does your lube have any sulfur in it?
There is no sulfur and there's no phosphorus in here. The GL4 that a lot of guys talk about and the GL5 that a lot of guys talk about both have varying amounts of sulfur and phosphorus. Less in the GL4, a little bit more in the GL5, and those are designed to be hypoid oils. This is not a hypoid oil. This is for gears. This is to lubricate gears, various kinds of gears, spur gears, helical gears, anything. That's what this is designed for. It's not designed for the wiping action of a hypoid gear. And like I say, there are 0 additives in this lubricant that I developed.
And your lubricant is safe on all the yellow metals as well.
100% safe. You could put this in a transmission and leave it for 50 years and nothing would eat away any of the bronze or brass in a transmission or transfer case. And this will work, like I say, I saw a lot of it for the Willys Jeep. This will work on old transmissions. If you have spiral bevel gears in a rear end, like the old Fords and stuff, and you're looking for 600W, that was just a designation. This will work on in place of 600W, and I have this in many different viscosities, depending if you're going to put it in a spiral bevel rear, a transmission, a transfer case. If you're running in the desert, I could set you up with thicker stuff. If you're running in the Arctic, I could set you up with some super thin stuff. So I have basically everybody covered with this stuff, and like I say, I'm proud to say there's not a single additive in here, and it's made with the finest ingredients. And this is the transmission transfer case lube of choice compared to anything else out there. Okay, here is steering box lube. See that right, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, this is the steering box lube. This is much thicker than the transmission lube. And a lot of guys, and I've seen it because I've taken apart lots of steering boxes when I rebuild them. And guys pump them full of grease, and then as soon as you turn the wheel and the worm gear slides around and there, all the grease tracks out away from where you want it to be lubed. This steering gear lube will stick to the worm gear, and it will lubricate it properly, and it's designed for worm gear applications. This has special additives in it for the way the worm gear works on a sector shaft, and this is the only correct steering gear lube that I know of. I know there's some stuff coming in from Australia, but this is the only stuff I know of that's correct for steering gears. And again, if you have a steering gear with a tube and worm and a sector shaft, doesn't matter what vehicle it's in, this is the right stuff. This will lubricate properly, and when I sell it in quart containers, and it'll come sealed up, and I'll give you a nozzle. Just screw that on, squirt that in the steering box up to the fill hole, and you'll be fine. It will lubricate much, much better than anything else you could put in there, and will stay where it needs to stay.
So how does your lube differ from like a regular 140 weight or 85 140?
Again, 85 140 or something like that, it's going to have extreme pressure additives in it. You don't want the sulfur or the phosphorus on your sector shaft bushings. It will eat them away, and it cause pitting in there, and that will just cause sloppy steering after a while. This has 0 additives, and it's specially designed for worm gear applications.
Now, what would happen if you were to use regular grease in the steering box? A lot of guys do that.
I've had guys pump so much grease into the steering box that it's come out where the steering wheel is. They pump it, it goes right up the tube and comes out where the steering wheel is. And when you take the cover off the box, the grease will be everywhere, but right where the two teeth on the sector meet the worm gear. Grease has a problem where it tracks out of the way. It gets pushed out of the way by when you turn the tube and worm there. The little nubs on the sector shaft will push it right out of the way, and you won't have any lubricant left.
Okay. Alright.
Okay, we're going to move on to differential lube. And there's a lot of different differential lube out there. You can use any of the hypoid gear oil, anything. You need the sulfur and the phosphorus in the differential lube, because that's what gives it the extreme pressure. So as a hypoid gear works, it kind of wipes. It's got a wiping action. You need extreme pressure additives to take care of that. This stuff here, if Matt can zoom in, this is Super, super tacky. Very stringy. This will stick to your gears like no other gear lube out there. Sometimes you guys go to a store or something, you might have seen that Lucas display where they got the gears spinning in the oil and it's carrying up to the other gear. You might have seen that at a Napa store or something. This outperforms the Lucas 100 to 1. This is much, much better. This will work on old vehicles. This will work on new vehicles. This will work on anything with hypoid gears. This has, like I say, it has the correct extreme pressure additives. It has extra additives, so this will work with lockers. This will work with limited slip differentials. There's the right additives in here, so you don't need any friction modifier or anything like that for your clutches. If you got a real high performance setup, obviously you'll need something, but if you have just a factory setup that was put in, you know, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, anything like that, this will work just fine.
Now, what differentiates your diff lube from a regular GL4 or GL5?
It's just the quality of the ingredients. You know, you could go out and get anything cheaper or less quality, but this stuff here we made with the finest ingredients, and we've got a differential up on the bench here, and I can show you how it clings to the gears and how it works. Like I say, when I set out to make these lubricants, I didn't set out to make the cheapest stuff. I set out to make the best stuff. Okay, I'm going to pour a little bit of this over the gears. And there isn't any other lubricant that does what this does. You could just watch that hanging on the gears as that comes up. And you can see the tackiness of this. That will stick to your gear like no other lube out there. I've done plenty of tests. I think I've used every single differential lube that was out there. And when we developed this one, we developed it to be the finest out there. There's nothing that even compares to this stuff. Okay guys, like I said, I've been selling this lube for quite some time, and a lot of guys have been asking me for wheel bearing grease and chassis grease. Now, I probably went through, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 different greases before I came up with this one. And this is your wheel bearing grease. And this will resist washout, and it won't break down at all. It's the best waterproof grease that I found. You could cross a stream with this, flood your wheel bearings, and really not have to worry about it while you're on the trail. And it really resists the water. I sell this in tubes, regular 13.7 ounce tubes, like you get anywhere. And that's plenty to do your wheel bearings and have a little left over. I've used a lot of different stuff, and this is what I've settled on. This is what I'm carrying now, and this is what you'll get when you're looking for wheel bearing grease. And like I say, I've tried every grease out there, I think, and this is what I've settled on, and this is what you'll get when you buy wheel bearing grease. This stuff here is the chassis grease. And again, I've tested every different kind of chassis grease, and this has performed the best. And this is what I like. Again, this comes in your standard 13.7 ounce tube. And again, if you guys are just used to using the cheapest stuff you can find, my lubricants are probably not for you. I do see a lot of guys will spend $40,000 on a restoration, and then they'll complain about a few $100s on lubricants. And I don't understand why that is, but if you are looking for the best stuff and you're looking for the correct stuff, I do have it. And when you put these things in your vehicle, especially the transmission lube, the viscosity is right on, is perfect for what came from the factory. You will shift into first gear and reverse like you've never done before. I've put these lubes in vehicles, and then other guys are like, oh no, put the 80-90 in mine. And then they come back a week later and they're like, I can't shift into first and reverse because the gears are spinning so fast. This is the right stuff. I've got one more thing right here. Now this is not so much for vehicles or anything. This would be for old machinery and stuff. I do have industrial lubricants because I'm into steam engines and things like that. If anybody's looking for steam cylinder oil, I don't sell a lot of it, but if anybody's looking for steam cylinder oil, I have that. If anybody has open gear applications, if you have turning engine or something like that, or oh, I don't know, different kind of steam engine, traction engine, something like that, or if you have an application, swing over here, Matt. And this would be like an open gear application. Obviously, this is just a little blacksmith tire roller. But if you had a big application with open gears, you guys may remember this stuff is super thick. Super thick. You may remember it as Crater Compound. That was a brand name. And but I have it now, and it will protect all your open gears. Okay guys, that's about going to wrap it up for today on the lubes. If you have any kind of vehicle, from the first vehicle to the modern day stuff, you have any questions on lubrication, you specifically need antique or classic car, truck, farm tractor, any kind of oils for any of those things, let me know. I can set you up with something, I'm sure. I'm expanding the lubricant line all the time. If there's something you need, just send me a comment below. And if you would like, I can send you a list. This is my email address. That's my direct email address. You can send me a note there, and I will send you a list of the current lubes I have, and I will put you on a list for any future lubricants that I come out with. But if you're looking, like I say, if you're looking for the correct stuff, you want your vehicle to perform as it did when it was new, you want it to shift easy, and you want everything just to be right in your vehicle, I do have the right stuff. I took the time, I developed everything, and it is available. I know a lot of guys want to get the cheap stuff, the cornhead grease and stuff like that. If you're one of those guys, that's fine. I don't mind not selling it to everybody. But the people that do want it, I do have it, and I'm shipping out UPS daily. Has to go through UPS because it's an oil, it's a liquid. I can't ship it through the post office. They won't allow me to ship it, but it is available. And if anybody needs anything, just let me know. And we're gonna wrap it up here. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.